Hey guys, it's Erik, owner of Farpoint Farms. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to do your own plumbing work around your house, your farm, your homestead, whatever, even your apartment. It's not that difficult. You know, back in the day, most houses were made with copper plumbing or PVC plumbing, and even beyond that you got your cast iron or black pipe plumbing. All those things have kind of been replaced, and originally they were replaced with a product called Quest, which is a gray plastic flexible line, and really it was revolutionary. You know, it has flex to it. It was relatively easy to work with some pretty inexpensive tools, and just a few of them that most houses manufactured after, let's say, 1995 used Quest. Unfortunately, Quest had a flaw that didn't show up for about 10 years or so, and that was that the inside of the tubing would break down. Minerals in the water would cause it to break, and the Quest would split. That created quite a bit of leaks. Matter of fact, there was like a class action lawsuit over that. So since then, they reformulated the design, and they came up with Pecs, which is a newer type of flexible plastic. It looks very similar to Quest, but it's different enough that I've never seen one have a problem or a failure like Quest has had. So most of your houses made, let's say, in the last 15 years are going to be equipped with Pecs. So if your house has any of the previous generations of plumbing, don't worry, this video is still for you, because I'm going to show you, by buying just a few tools and just a little bit of playing around, you'll be able to adapt any of those other things over to Pecs. And so let's start looking at some tools here. You're going to need a few tools, and I do mean a few. 3, 4, maybe 5, depending on the job you're doing. Obviously, if you're doing copper to Pecs, you're going to need to have a soldering gun in order to solder your copper line in. And we'll start with copper. So copper, obviously, with age corrodes, and it tends to not handle freezing weather very well. And what happens is the pipes split if they freeze solid. They don't have very much flex, which is one of the things that Pecs is really good for, is that even when frozen solid, a lot of times this pipe will flex enough, but it won't burst. And it can take a freeze multiple times before it really starts to show a fracture. So that's a really neat upgrade from copper to Pecs. But so this is a adapter. This is a 1/2-inch Pecs barb on this side, and this is a 1/2-inch female adapter here. So you could slide, you could cut off your broken part of your copper under your house or under your sink or wherever, slide this on there, solder that, and now you're ready to go with Pecs adapters, which is really neat. Same thing holds true for steel line. I've already got this screwed in, but this is actually a threaded barb here that's going into my new faucet for my garden up at the top of the hill there. But you can get them male or female threaded that would fit cast iron or steel pipe, and so you could convert a steel pipe over to Pecs fitting. So again, that's even easier. You just literally screw it in there, and then you have your male barbed Pecs fitting on the other end. Quest is also in the loop. I've got this. I'm not going to take it out of the package, but it basically is a T, and it comes with a Quest fitting and a Pecs fitting. So if you had a Pecs or a Quest line fail, cut it near the failure there, you can crimp on the Quest fitting on one end and go with Pecs the rest of the way out. And a lot of times you see that in houses, especially built during the era of Quest. A water heater gets replaced. People are using Pecs now, so they'll run Pecs up to where it's no longer convenient to get to, and then they'll crimp it back into the original Quest lines. Perfectly good fix right there. So that's how you change over from any of these other systems to Pecs. Once you've decided to go with Pecs, you just need a few tools. The most important and probably the most expensive tool you're going to need is the Pecs crimping tool. It may not look like this. There's some upgrades now. This is probably a 20-year-old tool. It's made by Zern. Nowadays, they come with a kit that has multiple sizes. This one's for 1/2-inch. There's also 3/4, and I believe there's 1-inch Pecs, although I've never played with that. So you'll need one of those, and that's probably, I'd say, in the $70 range for a kit like this that would include the 3 size heads. You're also going to need this, which is a ratcheting cutter. Looks kind of scary. You can certainly hurt yourself. And this is Pecs line right here, very flexible, right? And this comes either in 10-foot straight pieces or in giant rolls. This happened to be a 300-foot roll. But in order to use this cutter, let's see if I can get it set up there so the camera can see it. I'll do this again close up, but it's just a ratcheting effect. And it cuts the line. And you end up with a very nice smooth cut. No rough edges if you were to use a hacksaw or a blade to cut that. So that's a pretty important tool to have. You can get away without it, but I highly recommend spending the $15 or $20 to get tool there. And again, all this stuff is available at Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever hardware stores near your house probably carry stuff like this. The last tool is not necessary that I have here, but it is super helpful, and I'll show you what it does. So let's say you've made a Pecs crimp, and I'll show you how to do that here in a bit. And you've got that crimped on there, and you realize, oh no, that's the wrong piece. You can take that cutter and cut this as close to the metal of the brass here that you can. And then this fits right up inside of there and cuts the Pecs crimp ring, allowing you to remove it and reuse the fitting. Because the fittings are obviously much more expensive than the actual tubing. The tubing is very inexpensive. I think a 300-foot roll of the stuff costs less than $100. But these fittings can be up to $10, $20. Most of the smaller stuff, T's and Y's, little stuff, this is probably not more than $4. So as far as plumbing goes, relatively inexpensive. Other tools you may want to have as part of this would, obviously, if you're going from copper, you're going to need a soldering, a torch and solder, so you can smelt the, not smelt, but weld the piece on there, you know. The copper going into this Pecs will need to be put on there, okay? So let me move the camera closer in, and I will show you how easy it is to actually make a crimp, and then we'll finish up the video by going outside and putting it all together. Okay, so as you can see, I've got an assorted bunch of parts here, but for this project today, I'm going to be installing this faucet up at the garden. And as you can see, I've got my male Pecs fitting there. It's a 1/2 inch, and there's barbs there. I hope it shows up in the video. But you'll slide your piece of Pecs over the top of that, and you'll notice it's extremely loose fitting, but don't worry about that. Then you're going to take a Pecs ring, and these come in 10 packs, 25 packs, 100 packs. So you're going to slide that down over that, and you're going to put that ring right about like that. You see that little gap there? Let's see if I can get that in there. You want maybe, you know, 1/16 of an inch of white on the other side. You don't want it all the way up, because that might move back some, and you're crimping it down and you don't realize that you're not really sitting all the way in there. See how if I do it like that? Right, so you want to make sure your Pecs is flush, and you'll have just a teeny bit sticking through there like that, and we'll make our crimp. So let me get the crimping tool out, and I'll show you how to make one as best I can on the video, but you'll have to play around with it. Again, if you buy this tool, then you're golden, because you can cut it back off and reuse those fittings if it doesn't work out the first time. And it's going to happen, guys. I hope you can see that. So, okay, you see how there's a little bit of a white gap there? I'm centered on the ring, all right, and then it's just a matter of doing that. And if you can believe it, that genuinely is all there is to it. Now that thing won't move. It is completely on there, and that's a beautiful crimp for your Pecs. That's it. Amazingly, it's that simple, for real. So, I mean, if you can use a pair of scissors, you can pretty well do this. You could buy all this stuff here, and let's say you spend $110 for the fittings, the tools, and some pipe. How much is it going to cost you to have a plumber come out just one time? Just one time, come out and fix your plumbing. So if you bought this kit, threw it under the sink, and waited 1.5 years for a problem to occur, it's there that night in January when it's 20 below zero, and you blow a line. That way you can take a shower in the morning instead of calling a plumber at 3 a.m. Alright, so really cool. Now I'll show you, some of these other fittings here. I'm going to cut a little bit off here closer up now, since see how this thing works, but I'm going to give myself enough room, because I'm going to actually putting another piece on here, so I'm going to cut that maybe right about there. Pretty easy. See how nice and clean that cut is? And I'm going to take another Pecs ring and slide it on there. And the same process applies. You're going to want it about like that, about with just a little bit of a gap showing. The trickiest part of the job is getting that centered where you want it. You want that ring with just that little bit of a gap. You don't want too much of the rest of it showing. And of course, I'm sitting here on a bench. I can do this fairly easily. I can screw around with it, and I have all the room in the world. But underneath the house, not quite as easy. So again, take a look. I've got That's based, and there's a little bit sticking out there. About perfect. And that's it. I've just made my piece here. This is going to screw into a board, 90 degree. That's going to go down into the ground and then out to the house. And on the other end, where I was burying the line, I've already got a line buried that goes down to the barn. So I'm going to put a T in there. I'm going to cut that line, slide this in here, add a T. We're going to crimp that onto it, and I'll have a cutoff so I can cut the water off during the winter months that goes up to the garden without screwing with the line that goes down to the barn. Is that easy enough? I mean, seriously. If anyone has any questions on how to do this, you can feel free to email me. I'm sure there's other videos on this subject. It's probably been done to death, come to think of it. I've never actually looked. But the fact is, I want to pass this information along, because when I was a younger guy, before I got used to using these, I had to use this and the phone numbers. I paid some guy $200 to come out and fix the line. I also went like a day and a half without a hot shower because I had a copper line that had failed and it was too cold. There was water down there. I couldn't get it fixed. This guy came out. I kind of watched what he was doing, and that was it. I learned by watching him do it. Hopefully you've learned by watching me do it. And let's go up to the garden and I'll show you how this is all going to fit together, and I'll have running water here before the end of the day. So as you can see, we have a power line. That's actually an earth net cable and a water line, and that goes down to the lower barn. And in the last video you saw me trenching, I added this line that goes all the way up to the garden. And this is under some pressure here, so when I cut it, water will come out of there, but it's off, so as soon as it bleeds out, it'll be done. We'll be crimping in this line like so, and that'll give us an on-off, so I can, in the wintertime, turn this back off and just let the water flow down to the garden without it freezing all the way up there. So let me go ahead and make that cut. I've got my little cutter here. And I'm going to take off a small amount, about a ½ inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, so this will slide in place here. Okay. Now before you put your line on, you want to take your 2 crimp rings, slide them over. You don't have to set the depth yet. You're just going to slide them over so they're on there, because once this is on, you'll have to take it back off if you want to do that later. Okay. And now it's just a matter of getting those things set. And again, it's going to move some, but we want to get them as close as possible, because as you can see, this is real world. This isn't on a bench. I've got this wire in the way, and it becomes more complicated to get this crimper into place. Certainly you'll have to just kind of go with it after a while. But I'm going to slide that over the ring, kind of line it up. I'll make a final adjustments. Right about there. Okay, so that one's done. Now we'll get the other side, and then we'll cut this, crimp it on there, and that's it. The rest of the work will be done up at the top. I won't go into depth there. That's kind of just my project, but I wanted to show you how simple it was to work with Pecs, even in tight quarters like this. So let's go ahead and we'll make that other crimp now. Again, I'm going to kind of rough space it. Get my crimp ring close to where I need it to be. It's going to move around some. There's nothing I can do about that, but I can try to get it as good as I can. Right? Go ahead and crimp that. Now that's in there. Now we just have one more cut to make. We want to make sure that we have enough on there to go all the way in. So I'm going to cut it about that 7 there. And again, attach your crimp ring before you slide it onto the unit. And it's on there. I'm going to set my depth, roughly. And I'm ready. And there it is. So I'll go turn the water back on, and I'll have water up in my garden. That's it. I have now shown you how to become a professional plumber for less than $100 worth of tools, a little bit of aggravation value, and the rewards are pretty great because from here on out, you can plumb your own additions, you can redo your bathrooms, you can fix emergency leaks in the middle of winter or any other time of year. Pretty cool, huh? I'm Erik, owner of Farpoint Farms. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. There'll be more like it. And if you have a request, please let me know in the comments below. Take care.